Oh man, we are live. Hey guys, this is David Stephan Patterson. You may know me as DSP, and this is our very lovely co-host Neil Lebovits.
Hey, I'm just checking to see if we're live. Go ahead, sorry, bud.
Welcome to, you ruined my intro. Sorry, everybody. And welcome to the Headhunters and Boxers Talkin Smack. And today we have two very special guests. But I'm going to first small talk before I introduce you, because I had a very stern talking to by Neil before the show. So do not introduce the guests too soon. So,
the reason is, David, because we have pre-show banter. We do a pre-show with the guests. We have our banter, and we have really funny stuff. In our opinion, the ladies didn't laugh too much, but they're extremely serious, as you can find out today. But David and I cracked each other up as always, and it's some of the best stuff. So when we have too much banter before the show, David gets the sense, because we're warmed up, that we've already had enough banter. Let's cut right to the chase. And when we do that, I've noticed it. And David says truthfully, right, which is the truth, if we have too much banter on the live show, people might want to tune out because you want content. But there's a happy mix there. And we're both wrong. And the right answer, and I think it's going to be perfect today with these two ladies.
I think we have the right answer.
well, I will say this. Neil, our banter is bar none some of the best banter in the biz. However, it's kind of a bit like foreplay. It's kind of hard to say, okay, and now we banter. And they say, well, is this how I small talk? How was the weather?
Right,
it's hard
how was the weather, ladies? But yeah. This is bad. Beforehand, it was really wonderful stuff. Wow, someone was just rude about me wanting to hear myself talk. But yeah, I do. I get pumped up for the show. I love that people can abuse us on it. But we'll at least say without telling what they do. We have Amy Noland on your bottom left of the screen and Patty Comer on the bottom right. And you're in for an amazing show. Tune in and stay here. But David, back to you because I talk too much.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, you do talk too much, Neil. And quite frankly, we may lose yet another sponsor. But that's a sponsor we don't have yet. But that said, I will say my trick then there was, okay, we need to banter. What are we talking about? You know what? I want to banter about you talking to me about not enough banter. So it's banter about banter. It's kind of like Inception, if you will.
I like that. I see the little. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was my trick. Anyway, that said, welcome to the show. We have Patty Coomer, we have Amy Noland Pack, and so Neil has known these lovely ladies for many, many years.
30 and, probably, 30 I'm going to guess, 30 years.
And so from when you guys were like, what, 2, 3? Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
They hired us out of high school in recruiting.
Just need your babysitter. So Neil all week has been telling me, he's like, David, dude, you gotta get this show's gonna be amazing. These gals are on fire. Not literally, but they're on fire. And so he was telling me about their success story, and it sounds pretty cool. So to give you a little bit of background on these folks, not to get full background, let you guys do that, but they are the co-founders and co-owners of AccruePartners, and it is a very, very sizable firm. We've had a lot of folks on there that have been sponsors from owners, independent recruiters, trainers, etc. This is the first time I think we're in the big league. So I'm pretty intimidated right now. Back to you.
Yeah, well, so the story is amazing, and we wanted to share it because a lot of feedback we got on the show was we got a lot of training, but you get that from DSP, you get that from me in the group, you get it from the live video, and you wanted to hear real success stories and how they did it. And as soon as I got that, my first reaction was, I got to talk to Amy and Patty. And let's talk about, we're going to start in the present. So everyone, let's talk. Ladies, welcome to the show. Great to have you. All right. And please share with us. Tell us about AccruePartners. So you guys tell us about it. You just tell us. Tell us your story now, your current story. Where are you? Tell us. Don't be shy either. I don't want you guys to feel, I don't want you to be
You're in the office. You're in the office right now. Tell me about the company.
Okay.
Look at that office. Look at that office, by the way. Totally love it. Loft and
we love it too.
Stuff and brick and LCDs. living the dream. Go ahead.
Okay, we always live the dream. So we're headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am in the office today. And as Patty says and tells everybody, I don't think I ever went home. I came back to the office like really fast because I did not like working from home. So we have about 43 employees internally here in Charlotte. We have working a hybrid schedule right now due to the current situation, but we have 6 lines of practice at AccruePartners. So we have accounting, finance, IT, human resources, office, marketing, and a financial services division. But when we first started the firm, we started with 3 lines of business, which was accounting and finance. And that's where we first met Neil, as he said, 30 years ago. And at Accountants on Call, Agilon, and I don't know who they're called today. And then we had an HR practice, which was really deliberate to our growth, and a corporate services division as well. So we're both contract, staffing, direct hire, and project solutions. We have followed our clients across the states to 41 states as they have expanded, but our largest concentration is in our 16 county region here in Charlotte.
And Patty, tell us about your, I mean, you guys are super well known in Charlotte. Tell us about maybe the awards or what you're known as. And like, again, I don't want you guys to be modest. You're like it now in Charlotte. You're like the shizzle.
Well, hey,
you are.
We appreciate the compliments, but we fight every day to hold that position, right?
Sure.
Like, we're fighting all the big boys like Vaco and Robert Half, and it takes a lot to build a 40-person firm, but every day we are trying to continue to grow and be significant to our customers. But we are the largest independently owned firm. That's kind of a new terminology that we've taken with most of the independent firms got acquired in the last economic cycle. All the private equity firms bought all the firms that were at 10 to 25, $40 million. So there's not many of us left that are independently owned. We're the only independently headquartered otherwise. We're one of the largest women-owned businesses, which we are. We've never really won any business because of it, but we're certainly proud of it. We are best places to work, which is really hard to maintain. And it's just, recruiters are hard to please.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
We work hard to keep them happy. It's not the easiest thing to do to grow your company. Trying to think what other awards. We're the largest executive search firm, largest temporary staffing firm. What else have we won?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, now I do have a question for you. So I do have some more serious questions. Before I get into that, I do have this one. Now, I've had business partners before. Some great, some not so great. But I did start my original firm with really it was a great friend of mine. We weren't the best business partners, but we were great friends. Sometimes great friends don't make great business partners. But I did realize in that little thing in that relationship, there was one person who was the idea guy, and the other one was who was the and there's always seems to be that pairing. So the two of you, who's the idea person, who's more the operations, like, okay, let's get back to reality person? What would you say between the two of you?
We don't have that yet. That's not our yin and yang.
So what's your yin yang? What's your dynamic?
What is that? I are both innovative. We're super creative. She's coming up with wild things. I'm coming up with wild things. And we just figure out how much the pocket pay. But we came together more from, Amy was on the business development side naturally. I mean, there's 2 sides of a desk. And I've seen this in your Facebook group, people asking about scripts to do BD work and then scripts on the recruiting side. She just naturally, if the phones aren't ringing, she's calling clients. She's generating job orders. If the phones aren't ringing, I'm calling candidates, getting leads so she can go get the job orders. So our yin and yang from running the business is from that lens. I am strong operationally, but she's also very strong operationally on pieces that I suck. So over time, we've just divided and conquered the back office component. But from the front of the house, she's always thinking sales ideas. I'm always thinking recruiting ideas. And to be successful, it doesn't matter if you're a 1-person show or a 40-person show. Like, you got to be able to do both sides of the desk.
Well, there's also beyond just sales and delivery. You're recruiting on delivery, but the same difference. But there's also the operations, the finance, and there's the management as well as that. So I guess from that perspective, and this actually might be a good subject to go into, because for a lot of not new recruiters, but new independents, right? And they want to build a firm. it's one thing to be successful running a desk, quite another to hire somebody and then manage and figure out the operations, figure out the finances, make sure all that runs, because that's really hard as well as being an entrepreneur. So how do you guys break that up internally? And maybe if you can go into how that developed, because that's a big transition to learn those things when you're just a recruiter and no one's teaching you how to run a business or run an operations, right? So I'm curious, what does that look like with you guys?
Could I just ask that, because I want to go back in time in a second, right, and actually have all those things answered, because that's the beauty of this show. How did it all happen, including that great question? So I just want to add some things that you haven't mentioned, right, and then let's answer all those questions. One is,
Amy, why don't you tell them how you fired everybody when I went on maternity leave?
how I fired everyone?
No, Amy fired everybody.
Oh, that's great. All right, I just want to point out your office, living the dream, unbelievable lofts and fine reclaimed wood and brick, and your homes that we see on Facebook. You're living the dream. You have these beautiful mountain homes and life and travel, and I'm sure you've been asked to be acquired many times, right? It's not right. You're not independent by accident. So this is the dream. How does everyone on the show get there? So now we go back in time. Okay, so David, if you just don't mind, go back in time to the genesis of where it happened. How did you guys decide to do it, and how did you take that? And let's just start step by step, and we'll guide you along with some questions. So, David, if you don't mind, I just want to take one step back, and then I turn it back over to you for the questions. Ladies, how did you guys start? You met, and then what happened?
Okay, I'll start with that and then let Patty chime in. So obviously we met at AOC Ashland, and we put together what's called Project Independence. Back at the time, nobody knew what the spreadsheet was but us. So we knew we wanted to get back to the relationships, and that's really been the fundamental of AccruePartners over the course of soon to be 19 years in March. It's all about the relationships, and when you're working in a large organization, we were getting away from the relationships. And so, we wanted to be able to bump into people at the grocery store, the theater, the schools, or wherever it may be. And so we started the organization from that perspective. It was just Patty and I. We hired our first employee probably 6-9 months into it. And as Patty was saying, then she all of a sudden walked in one day and was like, whoops, I got to get pregnant. And so when she subsequently 18 months later of starting the business, or 10 months later of starting the business, went on maternity leave, you start and you have to hire people underneath you to get the work done and to help you build the resources that you need to fundamentally grow the business. And then she was doing payroll from home and invoicing from home because she could do that while she was on her leave.
But
and so
you can use a back office staffing solutions like myself to do that, which didn't really exist back then. Just saying. Anyway, keep going.
It was Excel spreadsheets and calling in to paychecks.
I apologize about Neil's cheap plug.
It would have been nice
really
to outsource it, but we didn't have an option.
That's right. All right. So scary though, right? You're not making money and you're hiring people. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people won't do that. That's the first step to scaling. You can't go to 43 people from 2 without going to 3. I'm going to bet you was that the hardest one?
We had $125,000 when we started. So we had a little investor that actually worked at another staffing firm as an executive. I'm sure his non-compete said he couldn't do it, but he gave us $125,000. So
it's not me. They're going to think it's me. I wish it was me. It would have been like investing in Amazon in the early days. I wish.
It was a guy that worked at Kelly, which is hilarious. Anyways, we just had $125,000. We were going to use our 401ks if we couldn't get the money, but he gave us the money. We had a line of credit, so we operated a little bit, more risky because we knew we had $125,000. Another staffing firm called GG Locators on the side. It's just a 3-person shop right now, and we've pissed through 2. And so. I think nowadays it takes a little more money to start, but there was a time that we couldn't make payroll because our temp business grew. When I went on maternity leave, Amy doubled the temp business. We didn't have a line of credit. We had to go, call the bank and get a $25,000 unsecured. It was tough, but you just took the risk and then you paid it off and then you keep on going. So, the business just started growing, and we then we were just trying to replace our $150,000 salaries when we left Accountants on Call. We were just like, oh, we can make this money on our own. We're not going to work for that horrible bald-headed man. And so
right,
then
but most people stay just where you are. They stay just where you are. A lot of people watching this, they're making a great living. It's just them. They want to scale, or it's just them and a partner. So really want to get across, like, how that first person was there an epiphany? Were you always envisioning going to 43 people and being number one in Charlotte, or?
Also, to piggyback off that, actually, to clarify a little as well, because one thing I see a lot, and I've experienced it as well. They always say recruiters make the worst recruiters for themselves, right? And I think it's because we tend to hire those that they're like us. We're so excited about the business, and we really sell it. We're not really screening, and then of course there's not like something to sell. Like, who wants to work for this little tiny company in an executive suite? Like, you're not going to get the best of the best. So how do you, as Neil was saying, going from the two of you transitioning up, the first few are probably the hardest, and you're kind of like doing this, it's a crapshoot. How did you find the right people, and how did you sell it? Because I think that's one of the biggest roadblocks for most folks that are starting out, is how do they sell it to someone who's good enough, right? And how do they find them? That's a big one.
When we first took the leap, and I think back on it, so Patty and I were adamant that we were going to be client facing on everything, right? Like, the client had to talk to us, the client had to talk to us. And it got to, we had someone come in who's in the industry in Atlanta, and she said, you cannot talk to every client. You cannot be that filter. So then we got, okay, I'm going to talk to this client, Patty's going to talk to this client. And then we hired, at the time, they were relatively entry-level college grads, and they would come in, and we would allow them. Maybe we would train them to speak to the clients that didn't have the greatest amount of risk, so that we could go on and do more, be forward thinking, gain other clients. And that allowed us for that first little bit of propelling, because you can only handle so many recs on your desk, right? And we had to have some trust factor to make that happen. So that was like, I think the first aha within like 2 years is to hire. We knew we needed to hire, and they were recruiting people, but we were still doing the interviewing, the prepping, the debriefing, the closing. And you can only do that on so many to continue to grow. So that was like that first little hurdle.
Well, was it just
smart, actually? Yeah. Well, let's say this real quick. I will say this: it's really smart the way you said that. What I've experienced, and I felt this myself when I was younger, and when I made my first hires. You're independent. Typically, what happens, what I've seen, is that they think, okay, if I can find somebody else like me, I do $300,000 a year, I'll hire another one. Here's a recruiter with 20 years experience who's worked for 8 different firms. He'll bill $300,000. He seems pretty good. And it doesn't really work like that, right? The good ones aren't going to want to be there. And he's been for 8 firms for probably a reason. But it's, as opposed to what you guys did, it sounds like you took your lowest value things that you can shove off to somebody and did that and get the high value things yourself, instead of looking for a savior to do it for you, right? Is that a good representation of what you did?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we to get somebody to come to work for us back in the day, it was just, Amy and I are pretty forced to be reckoned with. It's like, well, do you want to work with us or not? Like, I mean, and so it was being confident, just like as a recruiter pitching a job. I mean, we were pitching ourselves to somebody to come to work for us, and we probably had ridiculous commission structures back then to attract people. And
you did. You did probably. You did. I'm positive. Yeah. I mean, you did. Did you envision being 43 at the time, or did it just happen because you were smart each time and it built? Did you know or think this would ever happen? And I know everyone says, "Oh, well, we're cop." Did you ever think you would be here?
No, we just wanted to be big billers making a lot of money. And then when we were big billers making a lot of money, and then we're like, well, shit, this thing's got value to it. Let's keep going. And now we're kind of at a point. I mean, don't get me wrong, we could probably grow this thing from 30 million to 50 million, but we make a lot of money and we're having fun. And so now we're focused more on doing the things that we want to do than doing, the things that we don't want to do, and being really a good, valuable partner in the community. I don't have to have every business in Charlotte doing business with us, but I want all the good business doing business with us.
All right, and so to put it, I know you would never say, I wasn't going to ask you what your revenue was. I didn't know if you wanted to share it. So you just said it. All right, so $30 million. I could do the math. I'm not going to don't answer it. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But let's say you guys with your margins you're going to make $2.5, $3 million in profit. You're going to get a multiple of 6+ 6 on the conservative side. People are asking to buy you out for $20 million in cash right now. And you're not doing it because you love what you're doing and you love what you've built. And I think that's the dream, right? That's what everyone out there, no, right? I mean, you don't have to comment on the money amount, but why aren't you selling? And why aren't you growing it to 50 million, to your point? I think you answered it, but.
I mean, we get that a lot, and we thought about selling, and we'd probably end up in the Betty Ford clinic. And then we also have a lot of people, because we place CFOs, that they say to us, business, I don't know, I don't have anything to do. And so for that, we've got an army of number 2 people. We've got VPs, directors that really run the business day to day. But Amy and I still talk to customers. I'm working as research right now. I love it. I'm really good at it. But I don't have to do the AP and payroll and bullshit like somebody else does that.
Well, I will say this. So there's a few things that you said that I picked up on, as far as we don't need to work with every client. We don't want to work with really good ones. And you sound like you really, 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 truly believe in your service. And not so much a question, but just a lesson for all the listeners out there, because I think something that you said that they can take a lesson from is that when you really believe in what you do, when you really, truly, honestly, in your heart of hearts, and your gut and your soul, and you believe that what you have, your service, your company, whatever it is, what you do, truly is better than anything else, and a client would be a fool not to use you. You have that sort of like vision, and there's that vision to plant your flag on top of the mountain. For one, it gets you up out of bed when you're a solo operator and you just lost an offer. Get your troops out of bed every two when they lost an offer, and that's how you build a company of 43 people, because you've got that vision, that belief. If all you're doing is trying to make a buck, you're not really. It's going to be really hard to build that vision and build that company behind you. It's kind of like being a prophet on the mountain. No one's listening to you. You have to believe in it so hard. Eventually, you'll get your first person, then your second, and so on. So that's. Let me ask you this, based off that. Wasn't really meant to be a question, but I'll turn this into one. So it's not just me talking forever. When looking at it like that, how would you describe your vision, or maybe your mission as a company for your community, your clients, etc.? And has that been a major part of your or has it been a major part of your growth? You know what I mean? If that makes sense, or your strategy.
I don't understand the question either, ladies.
I don't understand the question either.
It's fine. It's fine.
I have an answer. I understand the question.
Yeah.
I've been talking too much. Amy says I talk too much all the time. She's like, I never listen to you. You just talk.
Don't ever partner with someone that talks too much. It's a nightmare.
I know. I can tell when she turns me off, so it's okay. Just like my husband. Anyways, I think the biggest thing about our business, our tagline is building people, companies, and careers. It's been the tagline since day one. And we have a very mature business model. Our candidates are our clients, and our clients are our candidates. I'm not scared of that. I just talked to a client today on a CHR search who I bill for contract labor. But everybody needs you at some cycle in life, like as a candidate or client. Sometimes people are really fearful of that. Like, oh, I don't want to call them this client. I build them. Like, well, I mean, like, this is a great job. Like, share it with them and network. I mean, it's old school stuff that you used to teach us, Neil. And you call and you network, and then you become a valuable relationship, because I'm helping build their company, my company, their career, internal careers to AccruePartners. So the underlying tagline of building people, companies, grit is absolutely our mission. And what we tie it to the human part of what we do, because people can view recruiters as transactional. It is the worst part of what I hate about this business. People just lump you in with a bunch of other recruiters. It drives me fucking nuts.
Totally. Bingo, though. Hallelujah. Right. But I'm not a fan, as you know, of the BS mission statements, because they're normally crap. You two, and I'm just going to say, and you could tell it, and David's pointed out, your confidence is key. And I remember even just 10 years ago, you only had about 10 people, because I went down there and I trained for 3 days with y'all, right? I mean, you've grown massively even since then. And that was an amazing story. And you had two, I don't know if you remember, you had 2 client emergencies, and you both had to leave because you had to go out there and deal with it, even though you weren't. And that says it all, because no matter how much you mess up in the beginning, and as a startup you're going to, they knew, at least with you, that these women care and they're going to fix any problem that we have, and right, and that's right with your mission. So I think that's so key, such a big lesson for everyone out there.
Well, it is. Well, you know, and to piggyback off that, you know, as well, when you look at, say, like a mission, and now granted, you're right, a lot of mission statements are bumped because people do it just to do it. It doesn't really mean anything. But a mission statement can mean a lot if you believe it down to your very soul. So, for example, like the one for me that I always believed in was that really helped me, for one, close harder, close more, and got people to believe in me, was knowing that the people I placed, I was helping leaders get out of their own way and to help them change the world through the companies they led. If they didn't have the right team in place, they can't enhance their own careers, but they're not going to change the world through the companies they work at. And so it's really important work beyond just closing the deal. And I think one, it helps you close better because you really believe in it. Secondly, it gets your troops to rally, especially millennials. They want to believe in something bigger than themselves, as opposed to, say, Gen Xers and Boomers. We're all just money hungry at this point. But they really want to believe in that. And so I think for me, that was a big part of it. So maybe to clarify that a little bit, because that's how I always looked at it, was the good work you're doing.
You know what I think is, so there's someone that posted in the group this week, and I've seen this a lot of times, but what do you say when a client, and it's just this week, you'll see it in the Ursa group, what do you say when a client asks you why you? Now, if you have to ask the question, you're not there yet, and it's okay, you're asking the question, so you're on the right track. But if you can't answer that with complete passion, it's not objection handling. When someone says, I use another agency, it's not objection handling at this point. When they say, your fees are too high, it's not objection handling. Like, you got to work with us to see, like, no, we XYZ. So I think they all go hand in hand. I think that you have to live your mission statement, your elevator pitch. You should never, if you do have that answered, why you, and you've got that confidence, you're a 40-person, $30 million firm in 20 years.
As opposed to, why should I work with you? Well, Bob, as you can see from our brochure, we have 20 years experience in the business. And our senior partner, you do the dance, and you're like,
right. We get great customer service.
And
we separate excellence from mediocrity.
Amy, Amy's got she spent years building our business systems. Tell them how you differentiate us when we go in against the Vaco or Robert Half or somebody.
Yeah, so at AccruePartners, we have the AccruePartners business systems that we call the ABS. And so we do modify it and apply rigor to it every year. It can go from, started at 17, it went to 18 and then 19. So, now that, I mentioned earlier when the show started, we started with 3 lines of business. Now we have 6 lines of business. But what's great, it gives us an opportunity within all those lines of business to cross-sell within our customers. And as Patty likes to say, it's like Hotel California. Once you come in, you're never going to leave, because the AccruePartners business systems gives us an opportunity to really service our clients in all lines of business, but it's a repeatable process and the outcome is going to be the same. So in all lines of business, we have a team of subject matter experts. So in the accounting and finance division, they're not recruiting IT people. IT's not recruiting marketing. Marketing's not recruiting IT, and so on. But the client's going to have the same experience in the search process, regardless if it's contract, statement of work, or project solutions, from step 1 to step 19, QC, post-boarding, and so on. That they're going to have the same outcome. It doesn't matter if we're working with the CFO, the controller, or working with HR or the CMO. And our clients really like it, and they're part of that 19-step process, and they are accountable to probably 7 or 8 steps in that process in order to have
Like what?
They have to participate in the intake. They have to give us feedback. Without feedback, we can't course correct. They have to participate in the debrief. They have to allow us to make the offer, and so we can do the proper compensation close. Because remember, Neil, you taught us all that. And we had this yellow sheet that we had to check off and turn in, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
right? So
I love it. I'm getting goosebumps. I swear to God, I love that. That's great. Oh my God, yeah.
And so we tell the client, we follow through with like an email that says, we're going to execute the search. The next steps in the process is A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3. And our clients really like it. And if for some reason a search goes awry and we don't get across the finish line, we can go back to that and say, hey, you didn't give us feedback. And we always tell our clients, we like feedback and give it to us raw so we can course correct fast and get to the meat of the matter the quickest way possible. So the ABS, it's been our repeatable process, and we keep going back to it. And we do make modifications, right? The market changes, the laws change. Sometimes our processes change, our technology changes. But that is what we would say is our secret sauce.
I will say this. Well, let me say this real quick to piggyback off the ABS system. I'm curious. So one of the things I tend to see for recruiters is that say they have a proprietary process. Well, for one, it's probably not a process, nor is it proprietary. It's usually just your same 7-step process, and every website's boilerplate, and it's meaningless, kind of like most mission statements. But the ones that really grab you by the whats, those mission statements, they make all the difference. It's just like your process, your 19-step ABS, that's a real deal process that you believe in. That can make all the difference. And I've noticed for me, when I put together a real system, that's what then you have something to sell beyond just ass in the seat. So I'm curious, what led you to that? Because I know for a lot of recruiters, that's one of the hardest things to do is figure out, how do I put in an ass in the seat and turn it into a real process?
Yeah.
That I can productize. That's tough for a lot of people.
I can answer that. We used to have a training manual like this fucking big, this 5-ring binder of all this shit. Through the years, we used to throw in there, and we'd hire a new recruiter and go, "Oh, here's your manual. Go read it." And
God, we were got the mouth. I love you.
I do too. Yeah.
I was at a client, sitting at a client, $6 billion manufacturer, and the CHRO lady's in there, and she's like, "Hey, well, you come in and do a Kaizen with my recruiters about their process and blah, blah." I'm like, "Sure, I don't know what a Kaizen is, but let me come in." So I went through this whole exercise, and they refined their processes. And they came up with this whole business system, which is basically taught at Harvard, in Danaher and all these other companies. And I came back, I was like, "Amy, that fucking training manual that's 500 pages long, there's a business system in there." And we just had a brainstorming session with some great employees that worked with us. And we came up with the steps, and we threw out the manual, and we started all over. And now it's, this big, but it's a system. They can see it. The clients love it because they're trained. The recruiters are trained to it. They know they can't work with Amy and I now, but we can't do all the work. So they know that the recruiters are trained in a system that has a successful outcome, and they like a lot of the things and some of the steps. I mean, I know recruiters like to shortcut shit like debriefs. It drives me batshit. Pre-compensation close before you get the offer to do the real comp close to send the offer. We have debriefs that are like religion. It is the panda religion. They call us panda, Patty and Amy. The panda religion.
I like it. That's great. Yeah.
You tie to the church of panda and when you're making money. So when it's a downturn, you got a checkbook to go back to. That's rule number 1 from a finance perspective. Yeah. And rule number 2 is you do those damn debriefs like religion, and you share them with the clients in the actual exact stuff the candidate said. And the clients are like, "This is so great. No one ever does this." I'm like, "I was trained by Neil Lebovits," or whatever the hell your last name is.
You say that one more time, and I get a piece of the sale price. I don't have a friggin' home in the mountains on 30 acres in a lake like you. I need a piece of that. Come on, a little bit.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's just a little bit about why those steps are important and how it came. It was not. It was from a client. I listened to my customers and I go, "Wow, that's fascinating." And I come back to my business and I go, "How can I apply this?"
Well, I will tell you that, and I learned this in the Army many years ago. And they say slow, smooth is fast. And so a lot of recruiters skip those steps because they want to be expedient and what happens is then the search falls apart and takes longer than it should, as opposed to go slow, go methodical, process, procedure, slow is smooth is fast. Right, and so
process, yeah.
and being able to follow a process like that means you actually complete faster searches. Paradoxically, I guess you could say that's what I learned in the Army is that for
and
sure.
you can scale, right? The process thing that everyone's talking about is a big takeaway message for everyone. You mentioned Harvard. I went to the Stanford Executive Program, and this was an entire course process. The process will beat everything else. You have to systematize what you're doing. If anything is built around a person, it's not a right system. It's not a system. You need to be able to fill seats and replicate it.
Well, process is also is freedom. I've got a buddy of mine that runs a VA company. He's got about 100 VAs all over the world. So he's the king of outsourcing. In fact, we had him on the show, Jeff J. Hunter. He was on the show a couple months ago. So for his company, with his SOPs, he calls them freedom recipes. So what happens is once you put it in the SOP, now you can go hire, you can bring somebody in, or maybe you have somebody taking care of that, they're gone. You bring somebody in and boom, right off the bat, if you have a good enough SOP, it creates freedom. So they're a freedom recipe, and I think if more recruiters actually put down processes and wrote things out, in detail, they can then, as you said, Neil, scale. They can hire people for that. They can bring somebody else in and to take care of that and do it just as well, right? Again, guys, so if you're listening to this, slow, smooth is fast. Processes are not sexy, but man, they're so important for your business. You cannot.
And the training, you've all mentioned it. Your first person was trained. And when you say training, you mean like you're talking about. They weren't thrown on like a virtual recruiter that people, hey, do you have a contract for my virtual recruiter? Which a lot of you on this, or you have two people. You can't just leave them out there, hope they figure out what you're doing, or hope they're going to be your brand. And I hate that expression, but hope they're going to live your mission and what your business is if you're hiring them. It's not just because I can get 30 or 40 or 50% of their billings and it's free, easy money as a 1099. They're trained. And you've mentioned that 100 times. And it's not rocket science. You're all in this group, or in David's group or my group. You all know about the great training that exists out there. You all have access to all these boot camps. By the way, my pal and Genesis, this is not a plug because I give it away for free. My boot camp for IRSA people to get for free is what these guys are talking about. It's the 24 steps that is the foundation of what they've made their own. I mean, it's I'm sure it doesn't even resemble what it was in the day. So yeah, I'm going to shut up. But I'm
oh, thank God! Finally. Oh man. I'm just kidding. Hey, real quick, I do have some more serious questions, but Amy, I do have a question for you, if you don't mind. A little bit of a silly question, but bear with me. Where do they play movies?
What?
Where do they play movies?
Oh,
Yes. All right. Is this like some crazy joke that I'm gonna stick in my mouth?
No,
they play them in the movie theater and on Netflix, on your computer, and on your TV.
No, the reason why I asked is I heard you say theater.
Oh, you did?
It sounded like it. And the reason why I say this is my grandmother's from Tennessee, and she says theater. She's the only person I know in my life that's ever said theater. And when I heard you say, I think maybe you said it because you're in the Carolinas. It sounded like it. And I'm like, oh man, my grandma.
Oh yeah.
The regional thing, theater, because she says that from Tennessee. Is that maybe I misheard you?
Of course it is. She's not going to pronounce the word PECAN, pie.
Oh, stop. It's pecan pie.
Okay, I call it
pecan pie.
So we call it pecan pie. If I'm at a Denny's up here, we order a pecan pie.
I'm from South Georgia originally.
Yeah, so Amy, sorry, I didn't mean to sing you up, but I heard that earlier in the show, and I'm like, I need to ask about that because it was such. I love this saying. I love it when I hear it because I have feelings of my grandmother. Like when I hear that, I'm like, oh, it's grandma, And so when I heard that, I'm like, so it made me wonder if that's like a regional, like a way that you say it regionally. I was kind of curious about that.
I think you must have misheard me because I don't know where I was.
No, yes, you did. You did say it. You did say it, Amy. You did. We'll watch it on the replay.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So listen, you guys went into 3 lines of business in the beginning. Okay, what I think is really cool in the takeaway is you did not do what everyone else does and, well, let me deal with IT and this and that and have everyone bleed and meld into a generalist. You didn't do that. You specifically created lines of business, and you already mentioned it. There's subject matter experts, which in my mind is beyond critical to success. And you wouldn't have been this successful, not even close, if you just started with, let me add people and we'll be everything to everyone and start growing on. You didn't do it. The second thing you mentioned, and I want you to talk about this, is the strategic method. It was just thinking it out of adding human resources, which you never did. At an Agilon, accountants on call at the time for you, you had high-end office, which you do. You had accounting and finance. Now, you knew the IT niche was great. Why HR? Because I know it was a big reason, and it opened up a lot of doors for you, and I think it was kind of brilliant. Why?
So when go ahead, Patty.
Go ahead.
So when we started the business in 2002, it was about the time there was all this compliance and rules and regulation where HR was coming into the fold. And our approach was, let's befriend HR, let's work with HR as part of the process. And if we're working with this, VP of Finance on a search, that we just work a parallel path between HR to keep them in the loop and in the process as we're working with the key stakeholder that the position would directly report to. So HR has certainly evolved, and it looks, the landscape and the footprint and the org chart of that looks significantly different than it does today. But it was very instrumental in us building a lot of really key relationships over the 18 years. And no, you're right. We had no experience in placing HR professionals prior to.
And Patty, what were you going to say?
Well, when we took a year off for our non-compete because we were good human beings and didn't just go open a shop across the street from our former employer, we both did something different. And I was in an HRIS type business, so I learned about HR IT platforms. So it was really just like nobody was doing it. No other firm was placing HR people. So we'd been taught they were the enemy at Accountants on Call. Like, don't call HR, go straight to the CFO, fuck them. And the reality is that at the end of the day, they got to onboard. The offer has to come from them. And really, quite frankly, we felt like if we could place talent acquisition managers, because that was the new title coming up in 2002, that would be our future customer. And we did it, and we won big.
Well, I will say this: the great thing about working with HR people, like actually placing HR folks, is you never hear the objection. You have to go through HR.
So
objection handled.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask, you already answered, but a loaded question was, you ever get any business from your candidates or people that you've placed where they now give you tons of business in the new company? Of course, right? I mean, that's what's so great. I even would train people that you should just dabble in HR as a recruiter. Everyone out there, I think, could just dabble in it, because you could go ahead and this person that's not giving you the order that, you got to get on the list, you got to be approved in this contract, recruit them. Call them personally. Cut them on LinkedIn about them.
You dabble on the dark side of the force, Neil.
Listen, I'm just saying it's a strategy, and there's a reason why it works, and it worked beautifully here. I'm just saying you need to think out of the box, right, and be a little creative with it. I think that's the. I will say most recruiters look at HR like the Sith, basically, for all you Star Wars geeks out there. I was going to get the job. Okay, before we do the news, one more thing real quick. I will say this, and this is kind of a tip for all of you guys out there. We were just talking about this on a training we had. I met a consulting company many years ago. Maybe you guys can even do this as well. They had about 70, 80 consultants out, no salespeople at all. It's all SAPs. There were super high margins. What they did is whenever they had a contractor out, they would give them a golf shirt with the company name, a bunch of business cards, and they put them on a program where because they're obviously on the ground talking to project managers, they know what's going on. When they would fight here for a project or a need, they would hook the company up and set up meetings as an on-site salesperson. The beauty of it happened is when, let's say, that contractor left that assignment, say it's 6 months, 9 months, the project ends. Even if another agency placed them, they're on site with that original company's golf shirt, business cards, setting them because they know they're earning residual income. They built up a pretty sizable practice without a single salesperson, just with that. Again, not something you guys should do, but it's something that I think the listeners, you reminded me of that, Neil, using your candidates to get in. We never think about that. They're on the ground making relationships. Those are your best salespeople. They really are. So, anyway, and like they said, your candidates are your clients are your candidates. That's something that we drilled into them early on. But if you live that, your whole approach to your candidates becomes what they all crave. Because no matter whether you're going to place them or not, in the next 2-3 years, they're going to be invaluable to you by either referring business to you, referring candidates to you, or becoming a client of yours. And it changes how you treat them. And they don't like how they're treated by our industry. All right, last question that someone posted on Facebook that I think we should answer. They wanted to know if you ladies can estimate or define how much of your new business development is outbound, phone-based solicitation versus the inbound marketing stuff, the blogs, the social media, right? The maybe ads or whatever it is.
We unfortunately are still on an outbound model, but we are
That sucks. I know. Yeah.
I mean, I even think with COVID, it's worse. Amy and I talk about the business development people are basically collections agents. I mean, they're calling and phone numbers are now messed up because people are deployed in their home. You can't get to people. But we're 2021, we've invested in marketing automation for the first time in hopes of eliminating the low level business development work to win labels. So we'll see if it works. We're not going to dismantle BD. We're going to keep it in place because it does work. It's just a lot of very low level clerical phone work to get one good conversation. There's got to be a better way.
Well, so I will say this because this is actually specifically my wheelhouse. This is specifically what I've been building for years for search firms. And I will say this, just as a piece of advice from my perspective, I see this question all the time. What about outbound versus inbound? So I cold call you automation, and it's really a false dichotomy. It's all about getting a message in front of a decision maker with using semi-automation, LinkedIn, advertisements, a phone. Because basically, a voicemail left listened to is just as much of an advertisement as an ad they see on LinkedIn. It's just a message, and I think the more people think about it like that, and less about it's in either or inbound, outbound, the more effective their marketing will be. Because the more in sync it's going to be. You know what I mean? So anyway, just something to think about.
Voicemails are going away altogether. I don't even check my voicemail.
Well, I will say this, but check this out. I will say this. Voicemails, yes, you're right, but if you leave the right voicemail with the right email prep, I mean, if you leave using voicemail, I'm not going to say right. Yeah, it's all combination when you combine it all. Because most people don't look at ads, but it's the content in front.
Totally,
content
that's right.
in front.
And no one thinks an ad has ever made them buy anything. No one thinks they bought a sports drink because of the player that was on there. That's me, and of course they do. Of course they do. All right, ding 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 ding. Love it. So we got some good. I mean, we only have 10 minutes left on the show, but I think we got some pretty cool topics. This one we don't need to talk about. I just wanted to point it out there because everyone always asks. But the latest information and stuff that came out, warehouse workers, customer service are going to be the most in-demand positions for this holiday season. Warehouse continues to dominate everywhere if you have the appetite for that. Customer service, an amazing niche, right, to be in. So just FYI. All right, two great things to talk about. So the first one I thought was super cool, and the article is basically the majority of hiring decision makers say that checking social media profiles is an effective way to screen candidates. 71% of them do this. What do you guys think? Do you guys do it in Charlotte?
I do.
Yes, we just got burned this week, actually. A new recruiter did not look at somebody's Facebook and there was something bad on it. So, the laws are changing in every state, like what you're allowed to look at and whatnot. But the social check that your recruiter can do on their desk, recruiters are super sleuth nosy. We're like the nosiest babysitters on the planet. And so I do think it's smart to do a social check because the client's going to do it. And it's better to find out that your person was on the sexual offender registry.
Well, yeah, that's a little something. I will say this: recruiters are good at snooping around. If you're ever dating a recruiter, don't cheat on them and don't break up with them because they will make your life hell, right? So now I will say, I love piece of advice. I will say this though. You can do a minor thing on LinkedIn. Like it depends on the industry. I know IT is going to be different than, let's say, healthcare, et cetera. But one of the first things I would ever do when I got a resume, this is just a minor thing, pull up the LinkedIn profile to make sure does it match. Because there's a pretty significant amount of time where it does not match. And that is one of the easiest things in the world that recruiters miss, but HR people don't, right? And you don't want to look like an idiot come offer time. So even just that alone is a big way to just very quickly just check and make sure that everything seems to be on the level. Just make sure they match.
And what I think is a good point that was brought up is, and knowing with this poll that over 70% of your clients are going to check their social media, how as recruiters can you not do it, right? And you just gave an example last week, you got burned. That's the one you know about. How about all the other ones where people get burned and you have no idea it was because of their stupid comment they put on Facebook or a stupid picture they had on Instagram with them in their bikini and their vodka bottle or them passed out. I've seen pictures on there with people that are smoking doobies or whatever it is. Like, are you insane? Like,
you know what, I will say this, but they're young. I mean, think about this. We're the last generation to grow up safe in the knowledge that all of our stupid shit is not somewhere online in some server, right? It's a dusty picture in a shoebox up in your closet, and it will stay there until the day you die. And I think kids growing up now, if you're 18, 19, 20 years old, man, that stupid shit you post on the Insta or TikTok or whatever, that's out there. And man, that's scary. That's scary because you don't want to be judged by the person you were 20 when you're 40, right?
I'm going to even say even an awkward dance move on TikTok might not get you a job because if you have horrible rhythm, they're like, I don't like this person. They can't dance, right? If I danced on TikTok, I would never be hired. I look like a total Jew trying to have rhythm. Horrible, right? It's horrible. So,
Amy,
Neil, come on, man.
There's a recruiter in Charlotte. I don't know, remember who he was, but he's been posting like he gets dressed up in outfits. And
he's actually with Daco.
Yeah,
and Daco in Florida.
Well, not that guy. That's one of those guys. But this guy was somebody who works like for Apple One, and he'll dress up as like a duck, and like tell his clients like to work with him because he will make it.
Yeah, who is that?
I don't know. It is awful.
I will make you.
First, you cannot sell. That guy cannot sell. He's just like, I'm gimmicky. You know what it is? That's the guy who's the gimmicky guy at the bar trying to pick up chicks. Be the gimmicky guy as opposed to actually working on himself.
He's the carrot top of recruiting, is what he is, right? That's completely what he is, right? Yeah. We love carrot top. So anyway, all right. One last good story is so. Majority now, okay? So majority of staffing firms engage with online ratings websites. They help recruiting. Interesting. All right, ladies, do you do that? Are you rated anywhere that helps? Do you make it happen? Do you share ratings? No?
Well, according to the internet, Amy and I are pretty tough people to work for. So I really am not.
All right, that's Glassdoor. Okay, that's internal.
I would love to be able to rate that little lady who gave me a review about how well it was to work with her, but I'm not allowed to give any comments back. But she can say I sit on a throne.
Oh, it doesn't matter what you think. You're the business owner, so you're evil. You make profit, and that is wrong.
But we do have to have difficult conversations with clients. And say, hey, Mr. Client, unfortunately, your Glassdoor doesn't look very good. Can we please talk about this? Because I'm going to need to have a story to explain. Can you help me understand here? And the reviews are unfortunately very one-sided, and hopefully that will change.
All right. So what you ladies need to do, and David can help you or whatever. I mean, you guys should definitely connect with David anyway. But what you need to do is there's tons of amazing social media, social references, social authority, social proof programs that you want to get all that stuff from all your clients that love you, which is you're gonna have a gazillion of them, and you're gonna have all these beautiful snippets and bullets. It works much better than references. You can have it's all kind of automated. It could be on pages. You guys got to do that as your next step to add on to.
And specifically, there's a tool for that you can use called Endorsal. ENDORSAL, I believe, Endorsal. Yeah, and what it does, the really cool thing about it, so let's say you just place a candidate or with a client, and so the client and the candidate are on a high, right? You get them right on the high, and it's part of your process. It automatically sends them, asks them for a review, and what it does is it'll put that automatically on your site as long as if it's a certain, like maybe a 4-star rating and above, and you can have either an entire page or like a little scroll bar down on your site. It'll just just rotate ratings from candidates and clients, and you get it when they're on the high. So check out Endorse. It's a really awesome program. And it's very much fire and forget. That's really all it is. So
and all automated. So David, out of time. That's the news.
Oh man, that is the news. Oh my gosh. All right. So with that said, gosh, this has been probably one of the most professional shows we've ever done.
Except for Patty.
Except for Patty. Patty's got a potty mouth. Woo, man. Oh. But so I know who the responsible one is now. Amy's like, shh. But that said, folks, I wanted to had to go wrong. But that said, folks, I want to give you guys a chance to give us your final thoughts. Amy, give us your final thoughts on just what your best advice, your best nugget that you can give to aspiring search firm owners that want to build a firm. What would that be?
Yeah, wow, just one, listen to your customers, right? Always do the right thing. Sometimes you have to deliver bad news, pull a candidate, and then really build your team and invest in the team so that you can continue to scale the organization to the reach or the height that you want to scale it to. But if you don't invest in your team, that makes it really hard. And that goes back to a question you asked once or twice in the program.
And that's actually very good advice. Investment in your team, because it's because they're the ones who are doing the hard work for you. And Patty, what about you? What would be your best nugget of advice? Same question.
I would just say, and I'm surprised Amy didn't say this, be customer obsessed. Just like crazy, always available, thinking about them, pitching candidates to them, pitching jobs to them, go extra mile for every little thing possible. Because the other firms, people they're on the payroll. Like, that recruiter doesn't care. So if you own your own firm, like, let them know you care. You're available at 8:00 at night, Saturday. I need to talk to you at 7:45 on the drive-in. Like, those are some of the ways that we are genetically wired, that the customers, they say that we are customer obsessed, and it is true.
Well, I think
that's very good advice. And Neil, I want to ask you the same question. What advice? I have a friend, and this is for him. What advice would you give a person who runs a live web show who's looking to replace his co-host but doing it nicely? What would you say? How should he break the news without the guy going psycho?
Well, I would say that, because I first joined his group to take advantage and get a name out there. Now that he's cornered the market himself on a group, I think he should just tell his bearded partner that the gig is up and he's no longer, he's obsolete. I think that's the way he should do it. What do you think?
Personally, I think it's probably pretty solid advice. Good thing I would never have followed it myself, because I love you, Neil, and we're never going to be apart ever. We're always going to be together. Oh, that's a scary thought. But anyway, that said, hey guys, we're about to wrap up the show here. Neil, I'm just kidding. I love you. You know that.
Yeah, back at you, brother. Back at you.
Speaking of, I love you so much. We went into business together, and so I do want to announce, the split board, and also my app. But let's talk about split board first, really quickly. Neil, take it away, because you really were the driving force behind it in a lot of ways. But let's talk about the split board that just released a couple days ago. Brand new. Yeah.
Real fast. Awesome. Go to headhuntersplits.com from David's group, or BOSS splits.com. We all share it. You'll have all the databases. It's brand new, so there's no real jobs up there yet. It's a 60-day trial. What we do is we've had hundreds, no joke, already sign up in a day. We need you all to please, those of you who've done it, please go in there and post a job right now. That's all we need to get it moving. And it's going to have more people. I mean, we're exceeding number of people. We just got to get the jobs up there now. So it's great. It's a free trial for 60 days. You see if it makes you money. If it doesn't, you don't like it, you're gone, right? Then that's what we're doing.
Well, it's a party. When you have a party in your apartment, and then you're there, and like party starts at 8, no one's here. You're like, oh crap. Now, granted, by 10 o'clock the party's gonna be bumping, but it takes its first couple of people to show up and mill around with little plastic cups and drink and be patient. And that's what we need. We need the party's gonna be bumping in a couple hours. Just come and post jobs, and then that's going to get, because we have roughly about 15,000 recruiters all told between the three of our groups, my group, Neil's group, and Ben Nader's group, and the database is shared amongst all three. So it's a very, very big network we can leverage to get in there and make it happen. But anyway, party's gonna be bumping. And that said, in addition, I know for me, if you're a client of Accelerator or Tactical, you get it. Well, I'll pay for your membership. For
Right,
Neil,
mine
if
as
you're
well.
a
That's right.
client of Boss, you'll pay for it. And I think Ben probably has something similar.
Yeah.
And one last thing as well, the app, the Pocket Headhunter, is out. It was released yesterday. Daily recruiter motivationals on there. The Headhunters and Boxers show is on there as well. All my training is on there. Hundreds
Looks
of hours.
amazing, brother. Looks
Free.
amazing, by the way. And again,
Thank you so much.
Looks amazing. So good.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it was a pain in the ass to get. Actually, my son really helped me get it up. He's the tech whiz. I've been thinking about it for 6 months. But Pocket Headhunter is up. Go to my group and sign it up for free. It's free. What are you gonna do? Free. Anyway, that said, that is all, folks. That said, if you want any back office solutions, talk to Neil. If you want to get your marketing ecosystem up and running and just jack to the gills, talk to me. I'll get that handled. And if you are a brand new recruiter looking for some training, talk to Ben Nader and his group. And with that being said, everybody, thank you for watching the show. It was an absolute pleasure. Amy, Patty, it was an honor, and thank you for trusting us with this hour and trusting that we weren't going to completely torpedo you with a dirty, dirty show. So thank you so much for being on here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. See everyone
Thank
next
you,
week.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. Who doesn't love Headhunters and Boxers? And who doesn't love Talking Smack? Join the show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern, live in the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter community. Make sure you click one of these boxes here and watch some of these videos or something. I don't know what's going on here. I just work here.